And we're live. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and we're about to start our live session for November 14th, 2019. Earlier in the day on the calendar, we had a release out of out of New York on the PPI. Nothing market moving at all. We're going to be looking forward to later in the day. We have at 10 o'clock Eastern time, the Federal Chairman Powell speaking. And then tomorrow we have some big numbers on the calendar. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m., we have core retail sales and retail sales. Those are big numbers that the market's going to be watching to make sure that the consumer, the U.S. consumer, is still driving the market. Aside from that, we do have the Australian dollar is by far the weakest currency today. Look at these moves that are just extending. And we see that also happening on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, which the yen is the strongest today. And it is tough watching those moves take place and not being involved with them. I never got a chance for entry on them. We will look at them, however, and focus both on them and see how we played that trade and whether or not we played it correctly or if there were any other opportunities we could have taken advantage of. All right, I'm going to start with a top-down approach. I'm going to start looking today at gold. And the first thing I noticed looking at the daily chart on gold is that gold is broken down off of this channel over here and now is in its first pullback. You can see it coming back close to testing this breakout, this support line over here. And then you have this upward trend, which is now, this resistance line. And then you have this resistance line over here as well. So I am starting to now look for shorts. I'm going to drop down to the 8-hour time frame. And you can see here on the 8-hour, you see I have this first line of resistance, which could be a stop loss, and then as well as up here. If price does resume downwards, now that I have the entry CCI pulled away from the trend, I will be looking to take a short and get into this trade. I have a lot of room. I have about, let me look on the daily to show you where the take profits would be. You see this area, this cluster over here, that's where my take profit will be. That's between 1430 and the whole number 1400. So you can see right now, that's a lot of room for profit potential. And that's a trade that going into the day that I am continuing to stick with, looking for an entry if I get into that trade. Let's take a look at the euro US dollar. Start off on the daily time frame. I am now completely out of this trade. I have taken profits. I had entered this trade in two pieces, and the first piece was, let's see, all the way up here where this yellow line is. And this morning I took profit on that trade. My second entry was all the way down here. I took profit on that yesterday down here. You could see that price around this two lines of support is not really pushing through there right now. It's just kind of, we have a doji on the last 8-hour time frame. Price is a little bit undecided. Had price really kind of continued and fallen through here, I would have been holding this trade. But since price has stalled a little bit, and you could see that all the support over here, I'm just taking profits on that trade and looking for the next possible entry. Right now on the euro US dollar, there is nothing setting up at all. If we break through this area of support, at that point, I will look to reload on a shorts because the take profit then becomes down in this area over here. US dollar, Japanese yen. This is now beginning to look like it's offering a possibility to get in. You could see here that since this was rejected and price has been trading off of this upper trend line, it's now coming down to the support of this rising wedge. This could play out in one of two ways. if price breaks and closes below this trend line, absolutely going to be looking for shorts and going to be looking to take a nice short position with hopefully a nice move out of that rising wedge. Right now, it looks like that this definitely has the possibility to continue playing out this pattern. We're coming close right now to the lower line of this trend line, which is now support. I'm looking for a buy entry off of that support. And how I will play that is, if you see right here, the true trend should cross over back over to the zero line. You should get what looks like this over here, where the true trend dipped below and then came right back above. If this happens off of support, my entry will be the zero line cross. I will not wait for the first pullback. I will take a zero line cross if this support line holds, and I will be looking to ride that up for a test of the upper trend line. So that's so far gold offering a possible short opportunity, and US dollar, Japanese yen offering a possible long. Both those are still in the wait and see, waiting to see what develops. Just want to wish everyone a good morning. How you doing, Chris, Jeff? Glad you were here. If anyone is looking at a particular currency pair or has any questions that they would like to, anything they would like to look at, any questions, let me know. Be happy to take a look with you. US dollar, Canadian dollar. This is also now getting closer to the kill zone that I'm looking for. You can see that price is very close right now to halfway through this channel, which is when I have, since down here, stated that I would begin looking to sell this pair. It's now getting close. Patience pays off in most cases. It didn't today on the Australian dollar, US dollar. I'm not in that trade. And it didn't on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. What do you do about that? Let's look at those right now. First, let's start with the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Let me pull that up. Now, you could see we were watching this. We had this trend line drawn in, and here's what's going through my mind as we were over here before this breakdown started. I knew that we had broken this trend line, but price had just been consolidating in this area, right? So as far as I was waiting for a breakout first. I was waiting for price to get started to show me its hand and then look to capitalize on that trade. The opportunity was over here on this up bar, but that's not what I was looking for at all. I was looking for a deeper, steeper pullback, perhaps even a retest of the breakout to make sure that that was resistance, and then to get into the trade. This is an aggressive play. It's not something that I was even considering. You could see what happened here, though. You can see that as price broke down, as soon as it started resuming downwards, that was the entry. This is not something that I was even considering. It's a beautiful trade. I wish I was in it. I simply missed it. And I didn't see, I don't see a possible way for me to get in. Of course, if you were playing super aggressive, you were taking this trend line break, that was a possibility. Some people might have taken the zero line cross. As you know, I generally don't take those too often. I just spelled out where I'd be looking to take one on the US dollar, Japanese yen, and that was coming off. If this trend line here held as support, if the lower support of this rising wedge holds, I will take a zero line cross entry off of that support. Also want to look at the Australian dollar, US dollar, since that's another one that is just has a lot of strong momentum. Look at that. It's trading at its lows. You have this big, huge down price bar today. Again, this is frustrating. It's frustrating not being involved in such a trade that's moving with such momentum. Once we had been watching this for a while, we'd been watching for this break. Once this trend line broke, and also we had this double break of support over here, we knew we were looking for sells. I was just waiting for the perfect entry, and it didn't happen for me, right? We even discussed over here how we had this little retest here of this broken support, which is then resistance. Again, there was no entry for me. I wish there was. It didn't work out. But it's really good, especially to review your trades where you saw something developing and never got a chance to get in, and to see if there's anything you could have done better. It's really important to always be reviewing your work. And that's what I'm trying to do here now, except I just don't see any other way that I would have played it. I don't, of course, knowing that we were looking for sells because we had just broken these double line of supports. You had the breakdown of last week's rage. These are all sell signals, but they're aggressive. And I'm looking not to take as many trades as opposed to trades that I believe have a high probability of working out. I am picking my setups. The less I trade and the better setups I take, the more profitable I am. Nevertheless, it hurts watching that. It hurts not being involved in such potential. And you just see this breaking down. It's beautiful. You could see this rising channel and then the breakdown of it, right? It's textbook. It's beautiful. I wish I was involved. Raj, good morning. How you doing? Welcome. Glad you're here with us today. Let's take a look at our friend, the pound US dollar. I like today that we're kind of running through all the pairs pretty quickly. We know what we're looking for. We know what we see. We're still trading within this triangle pattern, right? Interestingly enough, this huge up bar that after the breakout on Friday, and then we were brought back into this pattern. This was on news specifically that, let's see, I read it this morning. The reverse happened today. Here we have Nigel Farage saying that the Brexit party is going to fight Labour in all of its seats. The reason that this price spiked back up, because they said that there were certain seats, a certain number of seats that they were not going to fight against, and price came back into here. And now the opposite headline has occurred, and price is still holding within there. So that's a positive sign. That's a positive tell. We'll see what develops. If we start seeing a reversal, we're seeing the US dollar, the euro US dollar kind of holding off at the support here today. If we get a reversal and we start getting a little bit of dollar weakness, you might think that the pound is going to go ahead and break out up here to the upside. We'll see. We're going to wait. We're going to watch. But right now, we're still within this triangle. We're still consolidating these gains, and we're still waiting to see if we get a break to the downside or upside. Either which way, we're going to look to take a play, because out of such a consolidation pattern, we should see a nice move. We do see on the yen strength today, the pound trading near the low of its range. But again, compared to other pairs, it's still holding. We have the euro, Japanese yen, who's broken down out of that consolidation. Clearly, we have the Australian dollar really leading the way. And we have seen after the Central Bank of New Zealand didn't cut rates, we are seeing now the New Zealand dollar give back those gains, as we mentioned yesterday, we expected would happen. But we're seeing the strongest is the pound versus the Japanese yen. So that's not a pair that you really want to take to the downside. But what I am looking for, and what I do see, is if it does push down and gets near this support, this trend line, which offers support, and it starts bouncing off it, that will be an opportunity to take a long on this pair. But or if it gets below, once it gets below this line of support, then it gives us the green light to look for short opportunities on the pair. Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. Say weekly? Yep. Let's take a look. All right. I'm not familiar with the IG platform, Jeff. Now, I believe when looking at gaps and for gaps to be filled, you want to be looking at the CME. Let's see if we could pull that up and find that. That would be futures. So this is the gap that was filled last week. I don't see any other gaps that need to be filled. I am looking at the CME, the Bitcoin futures, and I want to be on the same page as you. What is IG? All right, so I guess IG is a leveraged Bitcoin trading platform. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not trying. I would like to know more about what you're saying. You're saying that from your experience, you've seen it has been pretty accurate that gaps that are open get filled on this platform. And that's interesting. I do note though here on the CME futures, I don't see any open gaps left that need to be filled. And for sure, you do have a lot of traders would be focused here. Nice. That's interesting. And so I'm going to look into them later. Obviously, I don't know whether or not they are offering leverage like a BitMEX or a Byte, 100 to 1, something. Is it a leverage future platform like that? Or, well, either way, I'm going to take the time to learn about them later today. We have not much happening on our euro pound. We still see the possible, we're looking at whether or not this long descending channel holds here now after the breakout as support. And if we start resuming upwards, the safe play is going to be above this area over here. If we start trading above here, we will aggressively be looking for entries with a lot of room to roam. Right now, we're just plain and simple on hold. Yep, definitely. Let's take a look at the calendar for tomorrow. We do have out of the US, this is going to be the biggest news. So the governor of Bank of Canada is going to be speaking later this evening at 9:45 Eastern time. And yes, it depending anytime someone, a representative is speaking, they have the possibility to move the markets. We saw Powell speaking yesterday. It didn't really do anything. Probably won't again today. Unless something new is introduced to the market, probably nothing will be market changing for the Canadian dollar. But there is always that possibility. And if you're trading the Canadian dollar, you need to be aware of what's going on. It is a high impact news event. I right now personally am on the sidelines just waiting for a better entry. Look at this though. We know the Australian dollar is the weakest currency today, and look at that strength the Canadian dollar is showing off it. That's coming off of this overhead resistance above. And let's just look back at the US dollar, Canadian dollar. And we do see the Canadian dollar is weaker versus the US dollar. Now, if we don't get to the sell zone, to the pin, to the sniper position point that I'm looking for, and price does fall back out of this blue box and start coming down, well, the first thing I'm gonna notice is for sure the true trend has turned negative, or will be close to turning negative at that point. But that's going to be a nice short opportunity. We might never get to this sell zone up here to the point that I'm looking for, which we're getting very close now. There is the chance that the Canadian dollar could roll over in this area. And if it starts trading below this blue box, I will be looking for shorts. Outside of that, I am on the sidelines. Anyone who's been taking this long over the last 2 weeks, which was a counter trend trade, it was trending down. This is a counter trend trade. It's provided fantastic trading opportunity and profits. Let's take a look all I noticed here, right, on the US dollar, Swiss franc, for any of those looking, considering our trading, we're still in this long area here. I thought we drew a box yesterday. You can see just price is just stuck within this trading range. There's no edge either way. I do see what it's not a head and shoulders, but you could see a left shoulder here, the head, and now a right shoulder. But either which way, I'm not calling it a head and shoulders. It's not, but it's giving the similar technique. But you do see price as of right now rolling over, and we get below here. If we start breaking down below this area, that might offer some really nice trades to the downside. Euro, Australian dollar, again, you're just seeing the weakness out of the Australian dollar across the board. I wish we got into those trades. Couldn't get into them. We did want to keep a watch out on this. This is the pound, the Canadian dollar, and this could be offering a fantastic opportunity. You have over here do have nice overhead resistance. We have a triangle playing out over here. So whether or not we get a break to the upside or a breakdown down here, it looks like this trade is going to offer some nice potential for profiting. So I am seeing lots of pairs offering opportunities. They're coming to the culmination of the patterns that are playing out, and it could make for some exciting trades over the next couple of weeks. But the only action going on today is definitely on the Australian dollar. Those are the plays. We never got into them. I never got into them. Is it smart to go ahead and be following the momentum today, this late in the trade? Not for me. I wish. That's the first thing I considered this morning, of whether or not there was the opportunity to still get involved in these trades, try to make, a nice 10, 20 pip trade. But I just don't see that the risk outweighs the reward for me on these trades. And I am showing prudence. I am showing maturity by standing aside on them. Raj wants to take a look at palladium. It's not something that I've even that I'm too familiar with. All I know about palladium is look at this. It was somewhere over here. I was at a benefit for a children's hospital, and I was sitting at a table with this guy who owns a big ranch out in Colorado, and we were talking about precious metals, and he told me how he was accumulating palladium. So I remembered when I heard the news over here that we've heard, several weeks ago, I was thinking of him and remembering that trade. Right now, stepping back and looking at this, what do we see? It's hard. I mean, well, going back to what I just said, the time to accumulate was a long time ago. It's now, whether or not this is a parabolic move, I think this is largely related to gold and silver. For example, when precious metals are in a bull market, you will see instruments such as silver specifically, followed by others, perhaps palladium, making their move. But on the adverse sign, if gold does not regain this support over here, if gold does not get back above this channel, if gold is rejected here, you're going to see palladium come off then for sure, because palladium is going to outperform when precious metals are in vogue and adversely not. That's tough. I would be looking to sell over here. I'd be looking to sell if just a little bit higher. just a lit. If we get anywhere near there or any type of resumption downwards, I would be looking for a sell side trade here. You have the first line of defense all the way down here. You have some support, and we're going to see how price reacted off there. You have also support. Those are bad lines. Let me fix that for you. So that would be your first area looking to take profit, and then you have some meteor support down here. That's what I see on that pair. Again, it's not something that I'm familiar with, that I watch, that I focus on. But what you do see over here is you do see this perhaps exhaustion move. If you look back at Bitcoin, and if you look at the chart of Palladium over here, you can see this top and then this large down move. And then normally what happens is you come back up and then you start the move down. You saw that happen over here. Here was the move back up, and then the continued breakdown. Where you want to look, actually, if I look at the daily, Bitcoin trades so quickly. What happens in days takes months on other pairs to play out. Here's what I want to share with you. So this is kind of what I see over here, something a similar pattern. You see this huge blow off top, and then there's the blow off. You can see this is what happened on Bitcoin, came back up, and then here comes the big move. Whether or not that's going to happen on Palladium, I'd be watching out for that. I'd be watching out to see if the next move down is the big move down. We have New Zealand dollar, US dollar. All right, so let's take a look at two things. We're going to take a look at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and the question is, why am I on the sidelines on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen? That's obviously the best. We have the weakest currency, the Australian dollar, versus the strongest currency, the Japanese yen today. And well, the reason I'm on the sideline is, and this was discussed yesterday, we were looking for possible entries. It was yesterday during this session. If you look at this up price bar right here, we were where we were down over here. We were waiting for some type of pullback. We were waiting for price to give us a potential setup to get short this. And the entry CCI just never made it overbought in a downtrend. Because the momentum was so strong, price just as it reversed just kept going, and I never had the opportunity to get in. I am looking for high probability setups. So I'd rather take less trades and profit on a higher percent of trades than just take every possible trade setup that I see. By picking my trades, I am by far more profitable than over trading. And although I wish I got into this trade, I never had the opportunity to get in. The trade just took off without me, right? We've been watching it. We've been following it every day. We look at it. We saw what was happening. I was just waiting for my own particular entry into the trade, and it never occurred. And when that happens, by not chasing after it, you're a far better trader than if you just start chasing after it. Because even if you chase after it, maybe that trade will work out. Maybe you'll catch a little piece of the move. But that's not a good strategy in the long term. It's not a good strategy at all. And same thing on the Australian dollar, US dollar. We've been watching this from up here. And we were looking, when we saw the breakdown below this trend line and below this support over here, we were looking to sell. We watched on this price bar over here and we said, okay, well, that was kind of a test of this resistance. Again, we're looking for sell, but it never developed. And we looked at that earlier in this session together here a little more in depth. The first thing we did is look at those two pairs, the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, and the Australian dollar, US dollar, and looked at how those trades developed and whether or not, in hindsight, there was a way for myself to get into it, and there simply wasn't. And I looked at all the possible scenarios, explained what was happening. There was just not, for me, not a way to get into that. And that's okay. So we're going to look at the New Zealand dollar with the true trend here. And we see that. So just one question, Mark, are you looking for a zero line cross using this trading strategy over here? And let's see, I have that over here. I have the true trend BTC. All right, so looking at the daily, there's no zero line cross. If you're looking using the true trend with the 370 settings, I see a possible. Well, over here you have the crossover. So we've been looking at this pair every day. Generally speaking, most of the time, I'm not taking zero line crosses on the true trend on our trading for currency pairs day in and day out. Using this strategy, this is taking zero line crosses using the true trend BTC. It's a different setting of the true trend with a 333 period, as opposed to the 3 for the entry CCI and the 70 for the true trend we use here. But over here, this was because the central bank didn't lower interest rates 25 basis points as expected. The market was expecting a cut. They didn't cut. Price appreciated. We noted that we have these long wicks where price didn't hold above this resistance over here multiple times. Price was now testing it again yesterday on that news. And why it's possible we do get a breakout above there. We also at the same time did expect for price to sell off. And so that's not a trade we would look for a zero line cross at all. Again, I'm not looking to trade zero line crosses using our true trend strategy for discretionary trading. What I'm looking for is usually first pullbacks and then multiple pullbacks. And it didn't happen, or there's nothing happening yet over here. All that we're seeing is right now price being rejected off of this resistance. So you could go down to a shorter time frame. And you can see that on the 8 hour, the true trend will be rolling over. I would wait for a break down over here below this support over here. You can see this was resistance, broke through, became support and support again. And I would wait for price to be trading below this support, look for the first possible pullback of the entry CCI, and then look to get in with the trend. I will not be looking for longs unless price gets above this resistance above, which it has failed multiple times. So until it proves itself, I'm on the sidelines. Don't want to chase this price bar. This was just the market didn't really have the central bank move priced in correctly. And then we looked at that yesterday and we said, well, probably it's going to sell off. And that's what's happened right now. And again, I wish I had the opportunity to participate in that trade. I missed it. I'm perfectly okay with missing trades. I'd rather stand aside when I'm just not sure, as opposed to just over trading and taking every possible setup that I see, because every day, all day long, I could see possible setups. I'm just looking to take the good ones. Speaking of which, is gold. Watching gold, see how it acts over here. If it starts rolling back over down towards the trend, now that the entry CCI has been oversold against it, I'm looking for a short. In the US dollar, Japanese yen, you can see right over here, price beginning to reverse off of the support. I will, if this holds right here, if we get a zero line cross, I will take it. And I'm taking it because I have a clearly defined stop loss. I know where I'm wrong. If price trades below this rising wedge lower channel and closes below it, I'm out of the trade. I have a nice, looks like 1 to 2.5 to 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio, or maybe even a little bit more up to there. So that's a nice trade that I'm looking for. And I would take this. My signal would be a zero line cross. That's where my entry will be on the US dollar, Japanese yen. The gold is also what I'm looking at. And I took profits on my euro US dollar this morning. I could get rid of these now. This was my entry. And whether or not if we do break below this support over here and we start trading below it, I will look for shorts again. But in the meantime, I'm just now on the sidelines waiting to see what happens next, to see what the next move is on the euro US dollar. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the thing. And it depends where your entry is. This trade is beautiful right now. It has a lot of momentum. How far it can go? Well, if I was in this trade short, where would I be looking to take profits? That's the question, right? So you have, let's see where the strongest support seems to be. And that's down here. Here you have resistance, resistance, broke through, support, broke through, resistance. I mean, there you have an area. You also have another area over here. So you're getting close to it, right? That's where I would be looking to take profit if I were in the trade, which is definitely now another 25 pips below. At the same time, yeah, that's I would be looking to see prices really move down, right? And a lot of time, that's how you see. A lot of times, that is what you see is when the move ended, you're going to see this push down. You're going to see price really. You're going to see price making that final push is where you get the final people taking profits, and then you see like a little bit of a quick reversal. And yeah, if you're in this trade right now, you after this large move down during this session, you have to be really, wondering where you're going to be taking profits. You could see over here also a little bit of support area. We're getting close. Whether or not we get a push down to here, it seems likely. And it seems if you got the good entry on this trade, if you entered somewhere up here or even down here, anything 74.2 and above, then you could still hold this trade right now because they got momentum with you. But if you entered anywhere down here, you got to be thinking of getting out because that was a bad entry. It wasn't the end. The worst entry you could have had was 74.20, and anything up here higher at 74.50 is a good entry where you have the leeway to hold this trade and see how it breaks down. If I had a good entry in this trade, I would be looking for price to test down here, and I would be looking to see how it reacted over here. And if it fell through, I'm holding this trade even longer. But if I had a bad entry in this trade, or even at 7420, I'm right now looking at when I'm gonna get out of that trade. That's what I'm looking at this morning. Is there anything else that anyone else would like to look at, or should we call this a session, since that we have absolutely assessed our market, laid out our plan? I'm interested if there's any other pairs where that anyone's looking at for a setup, that anyone is looking to get into a trade, because I want to see if there's something that I've missed. This also is offering a possible, we're entering possible buy area. All right, can move this down. So we'll be watching the euro, Japanese yen, along with the euro, the US dollar, Japanese yen. Let me take a look at a small time frame here and see what I could see. All right, not there yet. We're trading below this little line of support that we had. I'm going to be waiting just a little bit further, right? See what happens over the next day or two. And if we get the possibility to just pick a better setup, I'll be looking to do that. You could see that, yeah, I mean, even if price resumed upwards and got as high as like 119.85, and we around there, we should get a zero line cross, maybe a little higher, closer to 120.22. There's a lot of upside here coming off the lower range of this channel, though, and that's going to be offering an opportunity. So I like that. That's something that I want to keep watching. Adversely, until we break out of this channel to the downside, I will not be looking for any short side trades on this pair right now. If we do break outside of that channel, then we're looking to attack that to the downside. The only time we would be looking for shorts while in this channel when it's trading towards the top of the range, right? The bottom of this range, you're looking for longs. The top of this range, you're looking for shorts. And on the breakdown out of it, we would also be looking for aggressive shorts. Take a look at the US dollar, Indian rupee. Look at that. Wow, this pair really moves when it moves, huh? Look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's just not something that I would trade, that I'm familiar with. You can see these nice moves, but also see I'm assuming that the spread on this pair is rather big, which makes it difficult to trade. It has these gaps often, which also does make it difficult to trade. If you could get any type of long-term holds on this pair, then that makes it tradable. But I like to focus on pairs that are highly liquid, that have high volume, that have low spreads. This is not my cup of tea. What's happening though is, you could see this nice bull flag that price is broken out of. So the trade was down here. This is where you had this bull flag. You had this up move. This is kind of happening similar right now on the US dollar. I mean, the pound US dollar and the pound yen. Large up move being consolidated with a slight down tilt. And this is definitely a bull flag. And then you could see the breakout was over there. But this is where the trade was, right? Over here, there's no edge right now. The pattern's already played out. I would be on the sidelines waiting to see what happens next. Is it going to continue this move? Are we going to break above there? If it does, this pair could go, and it could go much higher, right? But right now it's consolidating after the move. So you're just waiting to see what happens. Yep, really does. All right, everyone. That's it for today. That's our look at the market. I do really thank you for being here, for going over this with me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.